Let's test cheap versus expensive hammers. Starting with a painted hand grip test, and we can see that they get a relatively equal result. I would say coverage on expensive is maybe slightly better than cheap, but overall relatively similar. Confirming this result on our 5 pull-up handle grip test, and we can see it again is kind of similar, although I do have to say you can kind of feel it on expensive. The pull-up is a tiny bit easier. Now moving on to our anvil steel quality bounce test, and we can see that they get a very similar result. I would say the bounce on cheap was slightly higher than expensive, but I'm not actually sure if that means better or worse transfer of energy. Next, onto our tuning fork pitch ring test, and we can see that they get similar results, although cheap has a slightly louder ring than expensive did, and expensive lasts a little less long. Moving on to you need to get to the other side of the site quick walk test, and we can see that expensive performs less well than cheap because it's got a longer handle, it sways around more in the holder than cheap does, but overall they perform pretty similarly. Moving on to our interior wood and metal quick dry satin brilliant white paint opening test, and we can see expensive performs better because it's got a flatter end on the back, whereas cheap just couldn't get underneath the lid quite as well. Next up, we did the which one does my mum prefer test, and she picked cheap over expensive, but understands why some people want expensive. And finally, we almost forgot the hammer test, where we can confirm this result, where I would say they both get the nail in, but I can see after a large volume why you want expensive. So comment below who you think's the overall winner. Streaming every day at 4 PM. Come check it out. Very cool.